Elena Lambert had sworn off relationships 6 months ago when her ex-boyfriend emptied their joint savings account and disappeared. And now, the handsome stranger offering to help fix her broken-down car on this desolate highway seemed too good to be true. The engine had started smoking 20 miles outside Denver, and she'd barely managed to pull onto the shoulder before the whole thing died. Now here she was, standing in the cold March wind, watching a man in an expensive wool coat approach from a sleek black sedan. "Need some help?" His voice was warm despite the chill in the air. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair slightly tousled by the wind and striking green eyes that seemed genuinely concerned. Elena wrapped her arms around herself, eyeing him warily. "I'm fine. I already called a tow truck. Out here." "You'll be waiting at least an hour, maybe two." He gestured toward her smoking hood. "Mind if I take a look?" Every instinct told her to say no. Strangers on empty roads, men who seemed too helpful, too perfect. She'd learned her lesson about trust. But the temperature was dropping and her phone battery was at 15%. "I don't trust this," she said honestly, meeting his gaze. "No offense, but I don't know you." Something shifted in his expression. Not offense, but understanding. He stepped back, giving her space. "I get it. I'm Adrian Ashford. My ranch is about 10 miles up the road. I was heading home when I saw you pulled over." He pulled out his phone. "Here, you can take a picture of my license plate, my driver's license, whatever makes you feel safer. Or I can just wait in my car until your tow truck arrives. Make sure you're not out here alone." The offer surprised her. Most guys would have gotten defensive or walked away. Elena studied him for a moment longer, then made a decision based on gut feeling rather than logic. "Okay, you can look." Adrian walked to the hood, and she noticed he moved with confidence but not arrogance. His hands were calloused when he lifted the hood, not the soft hands of someone who'd never worked. For 10 minutes, he examined the engine while Elena stood nearby, phone clutched in her hand like a lifeline. "Your radiator's cracked," he finally said, straightening up. "This car's not going anywhere tonight without a tow, but your tow truck's probably not coming for a while. There's a massive pileup on I-25. I just heard it on the radio." Elena's stomach dropped. "Great, perfect. Look, I know you don't trust me, but it's getting dark and cold. Let me drive you to the diner in Evergreen. It's public, lots of people. You can wait there in the warm, charge your phone, figure out your next move. I'll drop you off and leave if that's what you want." She wanted to say no. Wanted to prove she didn't need anyone's help, but practicality won over pride. "The diner. That's it." "That's it," he agreed. The inside of his car was immaculate and smelled like leather and cedar. Country music played softly on the radio. As they drove, Elena kept her hand on the door handle, hyper-aware of every turn. "So what brings you out this way?" Adrian asked, keeping his eyes on the road. "Job interview in Denver. I'm a physical therapist. There's a sports medicine clinic that's expanding. How'd it go?" "I think it went well. They said they'd call next week." She paused. "What about you? You said you have a ranch, cattle ranch, been in my family for 3 generations. I took over from my father 5 years ago." Something about the way he said, it made her think there was more to the story, but she didn't push. They drove in comfortable silence until the lights of Evergreen appeared. True to his word, Adrian pulled up in front of a cheerful-looking diner with neon signs and full windows. "Thank you," Elena said, meaning it, "for stopping, for not being weird about me being careful." "Everyone should be careful," Adrian said, "especially after whatever made you this cautious." He pulled out his wallet and handed her a business card. "My number's on there if you need anything. A ride, help with your car situation, whatever, no strings." Elena took the card, studying the embossed lettering, Ashford Ranch, a local number. Why are you being so nice? Because someone should be, he said simply. She got out of the car and watched him drive away before heading into the diner. The warmth hit her immediately, along with the smell of coffee and frying bacon. She found a booth, ordered coffee, and finally allowed herself to breathe. The next 3 hours passed in a blur of phone calls. The tow truck finally arrived and took her car to a shop in town. The mechanic wouldn't be able to look at it until morning. Her best friend Natalie was out of town, and the cost of a rental car plus a hotel made her bank account weep. She was staring at her rapidly cooling second cup of coffee when her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Elena, it's Adrian, from earlier. Her heart did an unexpected little skip. How did you get my number? You gave it to the tow truck company. They're friends of mine. Before you panic, I just wanted to check if everything worked out okay. Define okay, she said tiredly. My car needs a new radiator. I'm stuck in Evergreen for the night, and the only hotel has a broken heating system. Silence on the other end. Then, I have a guest house. Completely separate from the main house. Has its own entrance, lock on the door, everything. You could stay there tonight, free of charge. I can't do that. Why not? Because I just met you 4 hours ago, and that's insane. Is it more insane than paying for a hotel with no heat when there's a perfectly good, warm, safe place available? He paused. Look, I understand if you say no, but I'm offering as one human being to another who's had a rough day. My housekeeper, Rita, lives in the cottage next to the guest house. She's there every night. You wouldn't be alone on the property with just me. Elena closed her eyes. Every rational part of her brain screamed no. But there was something about Adrian's voice, his steady reasonableness, that made her want to say yes. And maybe she was tired of letting fear make all her decisions. If I say yes and this turns out to be a mistake, I'm carrying pepper spray and I will use it. She heard the smile in his voice. Noted, I'll text you the address. 20 minutes later, she was in an Uber heading up a winding mountain road. The ranch appeared gradually, sprawling across a valley with mountains rising on all sides. The main house was large but not ostentatious, all wood and stone with warm lights in the windows. Adrian met her at the driveway and, true to his word, led her to a small guest house about 50 yards from the main building. Rita's cottage is right there. He pointed to a smaller structure with lights on. She knows you're here. I told her to check on you if she doesn't see lights on by 10, just to make sure you have everything you need. The guest house was beautiful. One large room with a kitchenette, a comfortable-looking bed with a thick quilt, and a bathroom with heated floors. A basket on the counter held fresh bread, cheese, fruit, and bottled water. This is too much, Elena said. It's just the guest house. We use it for visiting family, ranch consultants, that kind of thing. It sits empty most of the time. Adrian shifted his weight, looking almost uncertain for the first time. I'll let you get settled. But Elena, I meant what I said earlier. If you need anything, just call or text, even if it's the middle of the night. After he left, Elena locked the door, checked all the windows, and then sat on the bed. Her phone showed 2 new texts from Natalie, one from her mother and one from Adrian with simply, "Sleep well. You're safe here." Against all odds, she believed him. She woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and the smell of coffee. For a confused moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Then it all came back. She grabbed her phone. 8:30. 3 new texts. Adrian, morning. No pressure, but Rita made breakfast if you're hungry. Main house, back door. Natalie, call me. I got your voicemail. You're staying where? The mechanic. Your car's ready. New radiator installed. You can pick it up anytime. Elena called the mechanic first. The total made her wince, but it was fair. She'd have to dip into her emergency fund, but she could cover it. Then she called Natalie. "Before you freak out, I'm fine," she started. "You spent the night at a stranger's ranch, a man you met on the highway. Elena, what happened to I'm done with men, Elena? What happened to I trust no one, Elena? She's still here. I checked all the locks, I had an exit plan. But Nat, he's been nothing but helpful. No weird vibes, no pressure, nothing. Or he's a really good actor. Maybe, but I don't think so." Elena walked to the window, looking out at the ranch. In the daylight, it was even more impressive. Horses grazed in a nearby pasture. The mountains provided a stunning backdrop. "I think he's just a good person." "Well, be careful and text me every hour." Elena showered, changed back into her interview clothes since they were all she had, and made her way to the main house. The back door was unlocked, opening into a large, warm kitchen where a woman in her 60s was pulling cinnamon rolls from the oven. "You must be Elena," the woman said with a broad smile. "I'm Rita. Adrian said you might come by for breakfast. Sit, sit. Coffee, please." Elena sat at the large wooden table. "Thank you for this, and for keeping an eye out last night. Oh, honey, Adrian told me about finding you on the highway. That man's got a good heart. Always has." Rita poured coffee into a sturdy mug. "He doesn't usually bring strangers home, though. You must have made quite an impression." Before Elena could respond, Adrian walked in through another door, dressed in jeans, work boots, and a flannel shirt. His hair was damp like he'd just showered. He looked younger in the morning light, maybe early 30s, and the sight of him made Elena's pulse quicken in a way she absolutely didn't want to analyze. "Morning," he said. "Sleep okay? Better than I have in months, actually." "Good." He grabbed his own coffee. "I called Jake at the shop. He said your car's ready." "I know. I'm going to head into town after breakfast, pick it up, and get back on the road." Something flickered across Adrian's face, disappointment. But it was gone so fast she might have imagined it. "Sure. I can drive you into town." Breakfast was easy and comfortable. Rita kept the conversation flowing with stories about the ranch, the town, the upcoming spring festival. Adrian added commentary here and there, and Elena found herself laughing more than she had in months. When they finally got in Adrian's truck to head to town, the morning had shifted toward noon. The drive took 15 minutes, and Adrian pointed out landmarks, his favorite fishing spot, the trail where he ran most mornings, the overlook where you could see 3 different mountain ranges. "You really love it here," Elena observed. "I do. It's home." He glanced at her. "What about you? Where's home right now?" "A studio apartment in Boulder that I'm probably going to give up if I get this job in Denver. Before that, I lived with my ex in Fort Collins. Before that, I grew up in Nebraska. Small town, couldn't wait to leave." She looked out the window at the passing scenery. "I don't know if I have a place that feels like home anymore." "That sounds lonely." It was. She hadn't let herself think about how lonely until he said it out loud. The mechanic shop appeared and Adrian pulled in. Elena's sedan looked good as new, sitting in the lot. Inside, she paid the bill, trying not to think about how this would set her back. The mechanic handed her the keys. "You're all set. Drive safe." Outside, Adrian was leaning against his truck, hands in his pockets. When he saw her, he straightened up. "Well, I guess this is it," Elena said. "Thank you for everything. The ride, the guest house, breakfast, all of it. You really helped me out." "It was my pleasure." He hesitated. "Elena, I know you don't trust easily, and I understand why, but I'd really like to see you again. Maybe dinner or coffee. Something in a very public place where you feel completely safe." Her first instinct was to say no. To get in her car and drive away and never look back, because that was safer. But she'd spent 6 months being safe and careful and alone, and where had it gotten her? "Coffee," she said. "Public place. Tomorrow afternoon." The The smile that broke across his face was worth the risk. They exchanged numbers, real ones this time, and made plans to meet at a cafe in Boulder the next day at 2. Elena drove away watching him shrink in her rearview mirror, and her heart felt lighter than it had in a long time. The next afternoon, Elena changed her outfit 4 times before settling on jeans and a soft blue sweater. She arrived at the cafe 10 minutes early, staked out a table near the window, and ordered a latte she was too nervous to drink. Adrian arrived exactly on time, carrying a small wrapped package. He dressed up slightly, dark jeans and a button-down shirt under a leather jacket. He looked good, really good. "Hi," he said, sitting across from her. "I brought you something." Elena eyed the package suspiciously. "We've known each other 2 days. Technically 3 if you count today, and it's nothing weird, I promise." He slid it across the table. Inside was a phone charger and a roadside emergency kit. Elena looked up at him, surprised. "So you're never stuck on the side of the road with a dead phone again," he explained. "Practical, right? Not weird." "Not weird," she agreed, touched by the thoughtfulness. "Thank you." They talked for 3 hours about everything and nothing. Elena learned that Adrian had studied business and agriculture at Colorado State, that he'd taken over the ranch after his father had a heart attack, that he loved old Western movies and terrible puns. Adrian learned that Elena had put herself through school, that she'd wanted to be a dancer before a knee injury redirected her toward physical therapy, that she was allergic to shellfish and terrified of birds. "Birds," Adrian repeated, grinning. "Like all birds, especially chickens. They're dinosaurs. Everyone forgets they are basically tiny dinosaurs. I have chickens at the ranch." "Of course you do." When the cafe started closing, they walked to a nearby park and kept talking. The conversation flowed easily, punctuated by comfortable silences. As the sun began to set, Adrian walked Elena to her car. "I really enjoyed this," he said. "Can I see you again, soon? I'd like that. Dinner? I know a place in Denver. Friday night." Elena agreed, and when she drove home, she called Natalie immediately. "Okay, so maybe he's not a serial killer," Natalie admitted after hearing about the date. "But be careful, you're just getting over Marcus." "I know. I am being careful, but Nat, he's different. He doesn't set off any of my alarm bells. Actually, he makes me feel safe, which is weird because I barely know him. Just don't rush into anything." But Elena was already looking forward to Friday with an anticipation she hadn't felt in years. The Denver restaurant was intimate and elegant, the kind of place where the waiters knew about wine pairings and the lighting was designed to make everyone look beautiful. Adrian had made reservations at a corner table that offered privacy, but still kept them visible in the busy restaurant. "This place is amazing," Elena said, looking around. "How did you find it?" "I have a friend who's a food critic. She recommended it." Adrian looked nervous, which Elena found endearing. "Is it too much? I wanted to impress you but not overwhelm you. It's perfect." Over dinner, their conversation deepened. Adrian talked about the challenges of running the ranch, the delicate balance between tradition and innovation, his plans to start offering ranch tours and workshops to diversify income. "It sounds like a lot of work," Elena said. "It is. But it's worth it. The ranch has been in my family since my great-grandfather bought the land in 1952. I can't let it fail on my watch." He paused. "What about you? If you get this Denver job, what's your 5-year plan?" Elena considered the question. "Honestly, I've stopped planning that far ahead. A year ago, I had everything mapped out. Marriage, house, kids, the whole thing. Then it all fell apart and I realized how pointless planning can be." "What happened? If you don't mind me asking." She did mind, but she also wanted to be honest with him. "My ex and I were together 3 years. We had a joint account we were using to save for a wedding and a down payment on a house. One day, I came home from work and he was gone. Cleaned out the account, took most of his stuff, left a note saying he needed to find himself. Adrian's jaw tightened. That's not finding yourself. That's theft. I filed a police report. They said it was a civil matter since his name was on the account too. I got about 30% of the money back after 6 months of legal back and forth. The rest was just gone. She took a sip of wine. So yeah, I don't trust easily anymore, and I definitely don't plan 5 years ahead. I'm sorry that happened to you. You deserved better. I know I did. That's why I'm here now, trying again, carefully. Adrian reached across the table, stopping just short of touching her hand. I will never make you regret that. The sincerity in his voice made her believe him. They dated through April and into May. Elena got the job at the sports medicine clinic and started 2 weeks later. Adrian drove to Boulder or Denver twice a week to see her, and she drove out to the ranch on weekends. She slowly got to know the rhythms of ranch life, the early mornings and long days, the satisfaction of hard physical work. Retta adopted her immediately, teaching her to make pie crust and sharing stories about Adrian as a boy. Elena met the ranch hands, a rotating crew of hard-working men and women who treated Adrian with respect and genuine affection. She even confronted her fear of chickens, standing in the coop while Adrian collected eggs and tried not to laugh at her nervousness. They can sense your fear, he teased. Then they should be terrified because I'm definitely scared of them. But as comfortable as things were becoming, Elena noticed things that didn't quite add up. Adrian's truck was nice, but not excessive. His clothes were practical. The ranch house was beautiful but not luxurious. Yet he casually mentioned flying to meetings, had a lawyer on retainer, and once she saw him write a check for $50,000 to help a neighboring rancher buy new equipment after a fire. When she finally asked him about it one evening in late May, they were sitting on the porch of the guest house, watching the sunset paint the mountains gold and purple. How does a cattle ranch generate that kind of money? I'm not judging, I'm just trying to understand your life. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Can we take a drive? There's something I want to show you. They drove for 20 minutes, heading away from the main ranch buildings. The road got rougher, climbing into the foothills. Finally, Adrian pulled over at a vista point. Below them, Elena could see the entire valley. The ranch spread out like a patchwork quilt, but beyond it were more properties, dozens of them, all connected. The Ashford Ranch isn't just the cattle operation, Adrian said quietly. My great-grandfather bought the initial 1,000 acres. My grandfather expanded it to 5,000. He also bought land all through this valley and the next one over. When the ski resorts started developing, some of that land became very valuable. My father was smart. He sold some, leased some, kept the best parts. Then he invested in conservation easements, water rights, mineral rights. Elena was beginning to understand. How much land are we talking about? The family trust owns about 30,000 acres total. The cattle ranch is what I'm passionate about, what I run day to day. But the reality is, the Ashford family has significant holdings throughout Colorado. We're not just ranchers. We're landowners, investors, conservationists. So when you said you took over from your father, you meant you took over managing a multi-million-dollar operation. More like $100 million operation if you count all the assets. Adrian turned to look at her. Does it change things? Knowing that I'm not just some rancher but someone with significant wealth, Elena's first instinct was to run. This was exactly the kind of complication she didn't need, but she forced herself to really think about it. In all their time together, Adrian had never flaunted his wealth. He worked as hard as any of his ranch hands. He lived simply. He was generous but not showy. The money hadn't changed who he was as a person. "I don't think it changes things," she said slowly. "But I wish you'd told me sooner." "I know, I should have. But Elena, you have no idea how many people treat me differently when they find out about the money. Women who suddenly become interested, friends who expect me to pay for everything, people who think I'm an easy target. When you told me on that first day that you didn't trust me, it was refreshing. You saw me as just a person, not as Adrian Ashford, heir to the Ashford fortune." "I did see you as just a person. I still do, but Adrian hiding something this big, that feels like a lie. You're right, I'm sorry." They sat in silence as the sun finished setting. Finally, Elena spoke. "I need some time to think about this. Not about whether I want to be with you, but about what this means. The kind of life you lead, the expectations, all of it. I need to figure out if I can fit into that world." "There are no expectations except to be yourself," Adrian said. "And I don't lead some fancy society life. This is it. The ranch, the work, the simple things. The money's there, but it doesn't define how I live. Still, I need time." Adrian drove her back to her car and they parted with a kiss that felt both reassuring and uncertain. Elena spent the next week throwing herself into work. She helped a high school athlete recover from a torn ACL. She worked with an elderly man regaining strength after a stroke. She focused on other people's problems so she didn't have to think about her own conflicted feelings. Natalie came over on Wednesday night with wine and pizza. "So he's rich." "Like really rich," Natalie said, already halfway through her first glass. "I Googled him. Elena, the Ashford family is like Colorado royalty. They own half the western slope." "That's an exaggeration." "Only slightly. There are articles about his father's conservation work. About Adrian taking over and modernizing the ranch operations. He's on the board of 3 different environmental nonprofits. There's a scholarship fund in his mother's name. These are serious people doing serious things. Which is exactly why I'm not sure I fit," Elena said. "I'm a physical therapist from Nebraska. I drive a Honda Civic. My idea of fancy is the Cheesecake Factory. But does he make you happy?" Elena thought about Adrian's laugh, the way he listened when she talked, how safe she felt in his arms, the thoughtful gestures like the emergency kit, or how he always had her favorite coffee creamer at the ranch even though he drank his black. "Yeah, he makes me really happy." "Then who cares about the money? He's not asking you to be someone you're not. He's just asking you to be with him." It sounded so simple when Natalie said it. On Thursday, Elena called Adrian. "Can you come to Boulder this weekend? I want to show you my world for a change." "I'll be there Friday after work." Elena planned the most normal weekend she could think of. They started with her favorite Thai restaurant, the hole-in-the-wall place with plastic chairs and the best pad Thai in Colorado. Then they walked Pearl Street, browsing bookstores and listening to street musicians. Saturday, they hiked one of the easier trails in the Flatirons, packed a picnic lunch, and spent hours just talking and being together. Saturday night, back at her studio apartment, Elena finally said what she'd been thinking all week. "I was scared because money changes things. It creates imbalances. My ex always made more than me, and he used it as leverage. He made me feel small and dependent, and when he left, I realized I'd lost myself somewhere along the way." She took Adrian's hand. "But you've never done that. You've never made me feel like you're better than me or like I should be grateful you're paying attention to me. You treat me like an equal." "Because you are my equal," Adrian said firmly. "Elena, I don't care that you drive a Civic or that your apartment is small or that you think the Cheesecake Factory is fancy. I care that you're kind and strong and funny. I care that you stood on the side of the highway and told a stranger you didn't trust him instead of just going along to be polite. I care that you face your fears even when you're scared. That's who you are, and that's who I'm falling in love with." The words hung in the air between them. Elena's heart was racing. "I'm falling in love with you too," she whispered. "And that terrifies me. I know. But I'm going to prove to you every single day that you can trust me, that I'll be here, that I'll never hurt you the way you've been hurt before." He cupped her face in his hands. "I'll earn your trust one day at a time for as long as it takes." Elena kissed him, and it felt like coming home. Summer unfurled across Colorado in shades of gold and green. Elena and Adrian fell into a rhythm. She worked in Denver during the week, stayed at her apartment. On Friday evenings, she'd drive to the ranch and spend the weekend. Sometimes Adrian would come to her instead, fitting into her bolder life with easy grace. In July, Adrian asked Elena to be his date to a charity gala in Denver. It was the first time she'd see his other life, the wealthy philanthropist's side. She bought a dress she couldn't really afford and spent an hour on her hair and makeup. The gala was everything she expected. Beautiful people in expensive clothes, champagne flowing freely, silent auction items that cost more than her monthly rent. But Adrian stayed by her side, introducing her to everyone simply as Elena, my girlfriend, with a pride in his voice that made her feel like the most important person in the room. She watched him navigate this world with the same quiet confidence he brought to the ranch. He was comfortable but not arrogant, wealthy but not flashy. People genuinely liked him, respected him. And when a woman in a designer gown tried to monopolize his attention and subtly cut Elena out of the conversation, Adrian simply took Elena's hand and excused them both. "Sorry about Caroline," he said as they walked toward the bar. "She's been trying to set me up with her daughter for years." "I can handle the Carolines of the world," Elena said, "but thank you for the rescue, always." In August, Elena's lease was up. She'd been planning to find a new place closer to work, but Adrian had a different suggestion. "Move to the ranch," he said one evening as they were cooking dinner together in the main house kitchen. "Not into the main house if that's too much, but the guest house. Make it yours. The commute to Denver isn't terrible and you'd save on rent." "Adrian, I can't just move onto your ranch without paying anything." "Then pay something. Whatever you think is fair. But Elena, you're here every weekend anyway. Half your stuff is already in the guest house. And I love having you here. Rita loves having you here. Even the chickens have accepted you." "The chickens tolerate me at best. It's a start." He turned serious. "I'm not asking you to move in with me. I know that's too fast. But I'm asking you to be here, to be part of this place, to let me be part of your everyday life, not just your weekends." Elena thought about her small studio, about coming home to an empty apartment every night, about the weekends at the ranch that felt more like home than anywhere she'd ever lived. "I'll pay fair market rent for the guest house," she said. "And we revisit this arrangement every 3 months to make sure it's working." "Deal, deal." She moved in on Labor Day weekend. Adrian, Rita, and 3 of the ranch hands helped carry boxes and furniture. Elena claimed the guest house as her own space, decorating with her books and plants and photos. Adrian respected the boundary, never entering without knocking, treating it as her private sanctuary. But most nights, Elena ended up at the main house anyway, cooking dinner with Adrian, watching movies on his oversized couch, falling asleep against his shoulder. The seasons changed. Autumn brought golden aspens and cool mornings. Elena settled into the rhythm of ranch life. She started helping Rita with the vegetable garden. She learned to ride horses, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence. She got to know the ranch hands and their families, attending a birthday party for one's daughter, bringing soup when another was sick. One October evening, Adrian took her back to the vista point where he'd told her about his wealth. The valley below was painted in fall colors, breathtaking in the fading light. "I want you to know something," Adrian said. "These past months with you have been the happiest of my life. You've made this place feel complete in a way it never has before. The ranch was always my responsibility, my burden, my legacy. But now it's also where you are, which makes it where I want to be." "Adrian," Elena started, but he gently stopped her. "I'm not asking you for any promises or commitments beyond what we already have. I just wanted you to know how I feel, that this isn't casual for me, that when I think about the future, you're in every version of it I imagine." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "I feel the same way. I came to Colorado lost and alone, not trusting anyone, not sure where I belonged. You showed me that home isn't a place. It's the person you feel safest with. It's you." They held each other as the sun set, and Elena realized she'd stopped waiting for something to go wrong. She'd stopped questioning whether this was real. She'd learned to trust again, not blindly but consciously, because Adrian had proven himself worthy every single day. Winter came early that year. By Thanksgiving, snow blanketed the ranch. Elena's parents drove up from Nebraska, and she was nervous about introducing them to Adrian. But he charmed them immediately, insisting they stay in the main house, making her father laugh with stories about ornery cattle, impressing her mother with his cooking skills. On Thanksgiving Day, the main house was full. Elena's parents, Rita and her adult children and grandchildren, several ranch hands who had nowhere else to go. Adrian moved through the crowd, ensuring everyone had enough food and drink, but his eyes kept finding Elena across the room, sharing private smiles. After dinner, Elena's father pulled Adrian aside for a conversation on the porch. Elena watched through the window, nervous. "Your young man asked for my blessing," her father said later when he found her in the kitchen. Elena's heart stopped. "What did you say?" "I said yes, of course. Elena, I've never seen you this happy. He's a good man. He loves you the right way. Dad, he asked for your blessing to propose." Her father just smiled. "I've said too much. Forget I mentioned it." But Elena couldn't forget. For the next 3 weeks she was hyper-aware of every conversation, every gesture, wondering when and how Adrian would ask. Christmas came and went with no proposal, just thoughtful gifts and time with family. New Year's passed. Elena started to wonder if her father had been mistaken. January brought a cold snap. Elena came home from work one Friday evening to find the path to the guest house lined with luminarias, paper bags glowing with candlelight. Her heart raced as she followed the trail. It led not to the guest house but to the main barn. Inside, the space had been transformed. String lights hung from the rafters. Bales of hay created a seating area around a small fire pit, and Adrian stood in the center, wearing the same flannel shirt he'd worn the first morning she'd seen him at the ranch. "Remember when you told me you didn't trust this?" Adrian said as she approached. Standing on the highway, looking at a stranger offering help, every instinct telling you to protect yourself, "I remember. You were right not to trust it, not then. Trust has to be earned." He took her hands. "Elena Lambert, I have spent every day since that moment trying to earn your trust. Trying to prove that I'll show up, that I'll be honest, that I'll put you first. I want to spend the rest of my life continuing to earn that trust. Will you marry me?" He pulled a ring from his pocket. Simple, elegant, a single diamond that caught the firelight. Elena was crying, laughing, nodding all at once. Yes, yes, absolutely yes. The ring fit perfectly. Adrian swept her into his arms, spinning her around, both of them laughing. Then he kissed her, and it tasted like joy and promise and coming home. "I love you," Elena said against his lips. I trust you, completely. I love you too, and I promise I will never take that trust for granted. They were married in May, a year after they'd started dating, on the ranch with the mountains as their witness. Elena wore a simple lace dress. Adrian cried when he saw her walking down the aisle between rows of hay bales and wildflowers. They wrote their own vows. I promise to meet you where you are, every single day, Adrian said. To give you space when you need it and closeness when you want it. To remember that trust is a gift you chose to give me, and to treasure it accordingly. I promise to keep choosing courage over fear, Elena said, her voice thick with emotion. To build a life with you based on honesty and respect and laughter. To be your partner in all things, your equal, your home. Rita officiated because she'd been ordained online specifically for the occasion and refused to let anyone else do it. Elena's parents sat in the front row. Natalie was maid of honor, crying through the entire ceremony. Adrian's friends from college, his business partners, half the town of Evergreen filled the seats. The reception was a joyful chaos of dancing and eating and toasts. Adrian's best man told embarrassing stories. Natalie gave a speech about how she'd Googled Adrian's arrest record that first week. Elena's father welcomed Adrian to the family. As the sun set, Adrian and Elena snuck away to the vista point, still in their wedding clothes, watching the valley glow gold. I can't believe this is my life, Elena said. A year ago I was broken down on the highway, sure I'd never trust anyone again. And now I'm married to the man who stopped to help, who saw me at my most vulnerable and scared and decided I was worth the effort. You've always been worth the effort, Adrian said. You just needed someone to prove it. They moved into the main house together after the honeymoon, turning it into truly their home. Elena's physical therapy practice flourished. She started offering free sessions to ranch workers and their families, building a reputation throughout the valley. Adrian expanded the ranch's educational programs, hosting school groups and aspiring ranchers. 2 years after the wedding, Elena found out she was pregnant. Adrian was so excited he called everyone they knew before Elena could stop him. He painted the nursery himself, a soft yellow with hand-stenciled animals. He read parenting books and took classes and asked Rita approximately 1 million questions. Their daughter, Amelia Rose Ashford, was born on a sunny October morning. She had Elena's dark eyes and Adrian's determined chin. Adrian held her with a tenderness that made Elena fall in love with him all over again. She's perfect, he whispered, tears streaming down his face. You're both perfect. Life settled into a new rhythm, fuller and richer than before. Late-night feedings and early-morning ranch work. Baby giggles and Rita's endless supply of baby clothes. Elena taking Amelia to work sometimes, the baby napping in a carrier while Elena helped patients. Adrian wearing Amelia in a sling while he checked on cattle, talking to her about everything he was doing. On their 3rd anniversary, Adrian and Elena returned to the Vista Point, just the two of them while Rita babysat. They'd made it a tradition, coming here to remember and reflect. "Do you ever think about that day on the highway?" Adrian asked. "About how easily you could have said no to everything. The ride to the diner, the guest house, the coffee date. All the time," Elena admitted. "I think about how I almost let fear win, how I almost missed all of this because I was too scared to trust. I'm glad you took the chance." "I'm glad you gave me reasons to." Elena leaned against him, watching the sun set over the valley that had become her home. "You know what the best part is? I don't spend my days waiting for something to go wrong anymore. I just spend them being happy. Me too." Years passed in the swift way they do when life is full and good. Amelia grew, smart and spirited, equally comfortable in the barn and the boardroom. Elena's practice expanded into 2 locations. Adrian's conservation work gained national recognition. They had a son, Noah, with Adrian's green eyes and Elena's stubborn streak. The ranch thrived, a blend of tradition and innovation, always growing, always changing. But through it all, Adrian never forgot his promise. Every day, in small ways and large ones, he chose Elena. He listened when she talked about hard days at work. He surprised her with coffee in bed. He took the kids on Saturday mornings so she could sleep in. He held her when she cried and laughed at her terrible jokes and looked at her like she was the most beautiful woman in the world. And Elena chose him back. She learned to speak his language, to understand when he needed space to think, and when he needed her close. She supported his dreams and challenged his assumptions and made the ranch house a home filled with love and laughter. On their 10th anniversary, Elena woke before dawn and slipped out of bed. She drove to the spot on the highway where Adrian had first found her. It was just after 6 in the morning, the sun barely lightening the sky. She stood on the shoulder where her car had broken down and thought about the scared, hurt woman she'd been. Then she drove home to the ranch, where Adrian was making breakfast, and the kids were arguing over who got to feed the chickens. She stood in the doorway of her own kitchen, watching her family, feeling a contentment so deep it was almost overwhelming. Adrian looked up and saw her. His face broke into the smile she'd loved for 10 years now, the one that said she was his favorite person in the world. Morning, love. Coffee's ready. Perfect, Elena said, walking into his arms, into the life they'd built together, into the trust and love that had transformed everything. Everything's perfect, and it was.